Wednesday, July 26th. I'm calling this special meeting of the City Council to order. I will invite you to join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next agenda item will be public comment, and then we'll move into the hearing. Does anyone from the public wish to comment at this time? I'm not seeing that, so we'll move on. Opening this hearing regarding a dog bite at 13 Kingman Street. At this point, the City Council will take testimony regarding the incident that took place at 13 Kingman. For your information and awareness, what will then happen is the City Council will close the hearing, deliberate on the matter in private, and will issue a decision in writing. So with that, this portion of the agenda is open for the hearing, and we'll begin with testimony. I believe we start with Chief Taylor. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. Thank you. So, for the purposes of this hearing, I just want to make sure that people realize this is Chuck Convard, the owner of the dog, that we'll be talking about. Lieutenant Kuchar is responsible for overseeing the investigation that occurred, and this is Jim Benson, our animal control officer, who also participated. So I think probably the thing to do is read into the record the bullet points that I had included in, I think, the notes that you probably received. Is that how you want to proceed? Yeah. So on July 13th, 2017, at 10:01 p.m., St. Albans Police Department responded to 13 Kingman Street, Apartment 6, in the city of St. Albans for a complaint of a domestic disturbance. During the course of the investigation, the officers learned the following, and there are a number of points that I want to make. And I would just say before I start to read this to you that there is probably some dispute about certain aspects of what's going to be read. What will not be in dispute and is indisputable is what happened when the dog did attack. So on July 13, 2017, a physical fight between at least 6 people occurred inside Apartment 6 at 13 Kingman Street in the city of St. Albans. During the course of this fight, a gray pit bull mixed dog named Steele bit Charles Convard, the dog's owner, in the hand when he removed the dog from Rochelle Whitehouse's throat. Prior to Steele biting Whitehouse in the throat, he bit Marcy Morales on her left ear. And I included a photo, and there's a small piece of her ear that appears to be missing. There are significant injuries to Morales' left ear, a piece of which was bitten off during the attack. There are significant injuries to Whitehouse's throat near her windpipe and jugular vein from where Steele had bitten her. Charles Convard advised officers that the dog, whose name is Steele, is registered to Angela Convard, and officers know from previous dealings with Chuck and Angela that the dog is jointly owned, kept, and controlled by both of them. Charles said that Steele had bitten him in the hand during some sort of altercation when he tried to pull him back. Charles advised that no one else was bitten by Steele. Charles refused to provide a statement in reference to the incident. Steele is registered with the City of St. Albans bearing license tag number 402, which expires on 4/1/2018. Steele is a 7-year-old gray pit bull mixed medium-sized dog, and the owner of the dog is shared joint possession by Angela and Chuck Convard. The dog has in fact been registered, has a license, and has a rabies certificate, copies of which are included in the material that you were provided. Marcy Morales advised officers that Steele had bitten her in the ear, and as you can see, they obtained a photograph of the injury. According to Morales, an unknown female, subsequently identified by St. Albans Police Department officers as Rochelle Whitehouse was involved in a fight in the middle of Kingman Street that continued into 13 Kingman Street, Apartment 6. Morales advised Whitehouse and a male, later identified as Joseph Jurgen, chased her into the apartment, pushing their way inside. Several people tried to push Jurgen and Whitehouse out the door when Steele jumped in and bit her and Whitehouse. Morales also provided a sworn written statement to officers. Both bite victims had to seek medical attention for their respective injuries. Officers met with Whitehouse and Jurgen at the Northwest Medical Center. Officers obtained a photograph of Whitehouse's injuries from the dog bite, which illustrates several bite injuries to her neck and throat. According to Whitehouse, she went to 13 Kingman Street, Apartment 6, to purchase crack cocaine. Whitehouse admitted to purchasing $200 worth of crack, or 5 bags. Angie Conbard, Laura Martell, Morales, and an unknown male, later identified as Ryan Powers, then confronted her, Whitehouse, and her male friend, Joseph Jurgen, about a previous unpaid debt by Jurgen, in which they said they owed them 2.5 bags of the crack for an outstanding debt. Powers wielded a box cutter razor blade when the confrontation began. This initiated the fight, and Steele attacked, biting her in the throat and neck. The dog Steele hung onto her neck or throat until she became motionless, and Chuck Convard grabbed the dog and pulled the dog from her. Whitehouse stated that she was afraid to move when Steele had bitten her in the neck. Whitehouse advised that Charles was able to remove Steele, and she left the apartment. Whitehouse admitted to smoking all the crack cocaine. Whitehouse provided a sworn written statement to officers. According to Laura Martell, Marcy Morales came running through the door because someone was chasing her. Jurgen and Whitehouse came banging through the door after Whitehouse attempted to hit Marcy. Martell advised that Steele was lying on the couch and protecting his area. Martell provided a sworn written statement. A witness and owner of Steele, Angela Conbard, refused to provide a statement to officers. Witness and owner of Steele, Charles Conbard, refused to provide a statement to officers. A witness, Ryan Powers, refused to provide a statement to officers. Since the incident involving Steele, the dog has been quarantined at 3 Cedar Street in the city of St. Albans by Charles Conbard. What I told you in the very beginning, and I have various written statements from individuals, there's always some he said, she said. What I provided you was a summary overview of what we're able to sort out from the facts. Again, what is not in dispute is that the dog attacked and inflicted those injuries. And my concern, quite honestly, as the Director of Public Safety in the City of St. Albans, is that the nature of the attack. When an animal attacks another animal or a person and grabs them by the throat, which is where your vital blood flow is and where your oxygen is, that's a kill hold. My officers tell me they've dealt with Chuck and the dog on a number of occasions and never had an issue with that dog. It doesn't change the fact, though, that the dog attacked and the dog bit. And the dog bit 3 people, including its owner. And I hazard to think about what would happen if that had been a 3 or 4-year-old girl or an elderly person. I don't blame the dog for what it did, but I also don't think it's safe for the dog to be in this community. And I think it would be irresponsible of us to simply try to move the dog to somebody else's community and it become their problem. I have video footage from the officers' body cameras that night, which is available if you would like to see it. It's pretty graphic. I'm not sure we need to play it, but we could if there's any interest on the part of the council.
Is there any interest? No. I think for not at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Conbard?
Yes.
And Also, we
I'm
have,
Rochelle Whitehouse. I was one of the victims. I'm here to speak on Steele's behalf.
okay. We'll start with Mr. Convert, and then we'll take additional testimony. If you wouldn't mind coming to the front of the room. Good evening. So what we'd like to hear from you is any commentary that you think is pertinent for us to know about this incident and Steele, as we will be going into a deliberative session to make a determination as it relates to Steele and with public safety in mind. So the floor is yours.
I don't know. Steele's been part of this community since, I don't know, 8 months old. He's been in Beverage Mart pretty much every day since 8 months old. I mean, so many people in this community love Steele, and my neighbors walk him, neighbors' kids walk him. I mean,
Can you tell us what happened on this, which is the date, on the 13th, when the incident
fight
happened?
broke out. Pretty much, okay. I asked people not to fight, and I mean, they were fighting, they were going nuts. I asked them to leave. I had Steele. I had him like, okay, it's a small apartment. It's not really big, probably about the size of this right here. And 6 people fighting with furniture, and people picking up furniture, throwing furniture. I brought them from one end of the room where they weren't fighting. When they came over to it, we went around. Me and Steele got on the couch, and I had him on the couch, and I always have his collar loose. I don't know. And he slipped my collar. He slipped his collar. I had him. And in a split second, I guess he jumped around, grabbed the air, and I mean, went towards her neck. But I mean, and when it said that he bit me, I was just trying to protect Steele, and the blood from my hand that got cut was from me grabbing him.
So you're not
And I
just,
basically grabbed him and I threw him and I drilled him, and he didn't move at all.
but you're not disputing that he bit you and 2 other people. You're in agreement with that
He
account?
bit the ear, and I mean, yes, I admit that. But the circumstance, the people shouldn't have been there in the first place. It's a freaking.
Take your time.
I know.
And if you need a moment, that's fine. Has there been a history?
Never. Never.
And can you tell us about how he's being maintained now? How are you ensuring that another fighting incident doesn't happen?
He's with me. Got 3 Cedar Street. We got fenced in yard, everything, you know. And he's always on a leash.
Any other?
Definitely.
Yeah.
He knows every trick in the book. He's just, I don't know, he's a great dog. I love him.
I have questions.
Should we do questions?
Okay. I've been hearing that Steele's a pit bull mix. Do you know what the mix is for the dog?
I'm not sure.
No. To your knowledge, has there been any other previous issues with Steele biting anybody? Or?
No,
Okay. Is he?
never. He runs from other dogs.
Okay.
Excuse me, but you just clarified that there was a prior issue. You asked about the ear. When you're saying no, I just want it real clear. He said no, but just a moment ago she asked if there was a prior issue.
No, the response that I heard was that there was not a prior issue.
He bit the lady on the ear, yes, Chuck?
We're talking about prior to that incident.
Sorry.
Thank you.
When people come to visit, you lived at 13 Kingman Street?
No.
Oh, so Steele didn't live there either?
He stays there nights at a time.
Okay. I mean, when
Unfortunately,
people come to
yeah.
visit you, do you put Steele in another room, or what do you do
No.
with Steele?
No, he roams free all the time.
So he doesn't have issues with visitors?
No way, no. They don't even bark when people knock on the door.
One of the bullet points that the chief indicated that there was several people there that tried to push the Ms. Whitehouse and Mr. Jurgen, I guess it was, out the door. How many people were several people? Who's in the apartment at the time?
It happened so quick, not really sure. I'm thinking 6 or 7.
Including them? Or not including the two that were coming in?
Altogether, 6.
6 or 7, okay. All right. Okay. Okay, that's all I have for now, thanks.
I just wondered, how old is Steele?
He's 8.
He's 8.
Yeah.
And how long have you owned him?
Since 8 weeks old.
So from almost the beginning. Okay. That's all I had. I'm just curious.
Anything else?
Did you have 2 dogs at one time, or at one time did you have 2 dogs, or did you have 1 dog and then the next dog?
Steele's lived with many dogs. I don't, owned, you mean?
Yeah. So have you ever at 3-seater had 2 dogs? Owned 2 dogs at the same
No.
time? Okay.
I mean, my mother-in-law's dog stayed there with us. A couple other dogs. Yeah.
I have one other question. I noticed in the notes here it said that Steele's rabies license expired May 29th. Has that been renewed?
Yes.
So was he vaccinated at the time of the bites?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
All I say is everybody loves him in this community. I don't know anyone that ever said anything bad about him. I mean, this is an unfortunate situation. I can't believe it was Steele's fault. And I think he'd be fine. In my care.
Okay, and you can take a seat. I believe we have, is it Ms. Whitehouse?
Yeah. So I was the one bit in the neck. I've known Steele for some time, and he's not aggressive at all. He's actually very non-aggressive. But with the aggressive behavior going on in his home, one of his homes, he was being protected, which is understandable. He was confused also, with all the fighting that was happening. Because he didn't just attack on one side, he attacked on both sides, you know what I'm saying? And he wasn't sick on us, and he wasn't, it's like he was just protecting his home and his family, his people, My wounds were superficial, and they're healing very nicely. the black eye and stuff is from being punched in the face. And Steele could have ripped my throat out if he wanted to, but he didn't. He pinned me, is what he did, you know. So, and my dog, my small dog, has played with Steele, I can't tell you how many times, and they get along just fine. And I actually went and visited Steele for my own, you know, anxieties and stuff, and he is his old self again, you know, like just lays around and really kind, loving dog. And I would trust my kids around him still.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question for someone else. When Steele grabbed you, were you standing? Were you sitting?
No,
Had you fallen?
I was pushed off from Marcy because when Marcy had her ear bitten, Marcy attacked me, and then her and I were on the floor.
Okay.
And he bit her ear, and I was pushed off from Marcy. And that's when he grabbed me by the throat. He was on the couch. And Chuck did try to grab him by the collar. But the one thing I would suggest to change is the collar has spikes on it, and maybe next time it would be easier for Chuck to hold the collar if it didn't have the spikes on the outside. I mean, that's one thing I suggest. I don't think he should be put down.
Marcy, did she live there? Or did
No.
So she was a guest there too?
Yes.
Who lived at 13 King?
It's Angie's house,
Okay,
which
right.
is Steele's actual owner. I mean, the
Right.
co-owners, I guess.
That's why he lives between the two?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And he's great. And like you said, everybody does love Steele. And he's been in the community for a long time with no incidents. And not even against other dogs, so.
Okay, anything else? Thank you.
You're welcome.
I sense that we have potentially some other comments. Sir, would you come to the front and identify yourself?
This is my first time, so you can guide me in the procedure.
Yeah.
My first name is Ladd, L-A-D, middle initial O, last name L-I-F-T-O-F-F. When I arrived in this town, I was known by the name of Gutierrez, but I am Ladd Liftoff, 8/11/47. And I've been in St. Albans since December. And I met Rochelle just recently after this accident had happened, and then a few days later I saw Chuck and Steele down by the plaza. And the first thing I would like to say is that when you have an issue involving a dog bite in the community, I would think you would want to impound that dog. I know I love your dog, and I think but it seems to me, while an issue regarding safety in the community is being debated, the dog should be under someone else's care. That's my first thought. My second thought is that I only know, whatever, this is informal hearsay, according to Rochelle, the issue seems to be when Chuck is upset, the dog is upset. And I'm wondering if there may be a problem with this particular matchup, and that the dog might, like someone said, not sending the problem somewhere else, but this could be the perfect dog for someone home from Iraq, the perfect dog for a retired police officer, the perfect dog for someone else, but in the meantime, not rush to kill, but rather, because it's a national issue. And I happen to have seen the Messenger today, or one of the front page, and there's a question regarding some huge bill of another dog that was impounded. And my guess is that not only Rochelle, who says we love this dog, but I bet there's many, many people in this community that the costs of impounding and caring for Steele while you were deliberating, I bet people in this community would come forward, and it wouldn't cost the town of St. Albans a penny. The only other thought I have is asking a veterinarian about pulling teeth and muzzles, but that's sad.
Do you have any other testimony pertinent to the event where you were not present?
I wasn't present. I had met Steele like a couple months ago, once in a flash. My first awareness of this was when I saw Rochelle. And the reason I interrupted before is because she had described that when she was bit, she knew there was a history that he had bitten his owner twice and he had bitten another woman on the ear. And we hadn't talked at length enough for me to realize this all occurred on the same night. Yeah. But the way she described it, it was the upsetness of the person and her not leaving when she was asked to leave.
Thank you.
I thought also, I know it's a meeting, so I'm gonna write to you, because there's a zillion more things I could say, but I think I've said the most important thing is that for any issue regarding dog bite, please consider quarantine and while it's being decided. And let me just ask,
You need to address the council
Okay.
at this point. If you have questions.
It involves violence in the community. Are you the one
So-
who tipped over the pole?
I
No, that
So
has
I'm-
nothing.
Okay,
to do with
so,
it.
okay.
This,
Yes, time out.
I'm
Yeah.
running this meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
This is
I'm sorry.
about the dog incident,
Yes.
and your testimony should be directed to the city council.
Very well.
If there are other issues, that's
Okay, so I do have, related to this then, I was at the very bench where I had just seen Chuck and Steele. The person sitting next to me said that broken telephone pole was that Chuck had just left and said he was the one who tipped it over because he was angry the night before.
That's not the subject of why we're here this evening, that's not relevant to this.
So I would have been good to exit when I said I have more things to say and I'd rather put them, so I apologize for stepping over the bounds.
No apologies.
And, yeah.
Just want to keep us on track. Are there any other questions from the council? Okay. Thank you very much.
Good.
And is there anyone else who has something to say? Yes.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to tell you that for clarification's sake, no one would take the dog because of the vicious nature of the attack. And what we have done in the past is quarantine the dog in the home of the owner, which is what we did.
Yeah.
And when you say no one would take the dog,
So no one, the Humane Society, Lucky Puppies, where we contract, will not take a vicious dog for quarantine.
okay.
And I have no place to hold that animal.
Okay.
He's not vicious though.
Okay. I think at this point, I'm seeing no other comments forthcoming. Any further comments from the council? If not, I'm going to suggest that it's time to close the hearing, and then we'll move into a deliberative session.
Okay.
Okay, we'll consider this hearing closed. Thank you.